Okay. I'm just trying to sound excited, and I'm very tired. All right.
That's totally
Why the hell are you
understandable.
tired?
All right. Hey everybody, this is Victor from the Brooklyn Fishing Club. I'm here today with Mario DiBiase and crazy Alberto Knie, and here
Calm down. Take it
Relax.
yeah. Okay.
Like bleep, bleep, bleep.
All right, guys. Okay.
I know, really, right? Leave it.
All right, guys, I'm excited to be here today. It is the first ever Brooklyn Fishing Club podcast. I'm Victor Lucia, the founder and president of Brooklyn Fishing Club. I'm here today with Mario DiBiase and crazy Alberto Knie. We're going to be talking a little bit about fishing in New York City, the fall striper run, and a bunch of other various topics involving fishing in urban areas. I'll start out by introducing Mario.
Hey,
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, Victor. Thanks for having me here.
Let's hear a little bit about you, Mario.
All right. Well, I am the president of the Staten Island chapter of the Brooklyn Fishing Club, and I'm also a restaurant owner here in Park Slope. And
What's the name of the restaurant? Come
Sotto
on.
Voce restaurant.
You got to plug it. Come
Oh,
on.
yeah, Sotto Voce restaurant right on 7th Avenue and
There you
4th
go.
Street. And we've been here for 20 years. We're going to be celebrating that on December.
Wonderful. Crazy Alberto, how you
Hey,
doing?
What's up? What's up? First of all, this is your very first, and I'm very honored to be here. And a little bit about me. Well, there's a reason why they call me crazy, because I fish like crazy. I am the founder of Tactical Anglers Incorporated. It's a company that does innovative fishing products, lures, and so forth. I am also a premier pro staff for various companies such as Penn, St. Croix, Abu, so forth, and yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, I fish very, very hard, and I do write, and I also do photography for various others publication. But mostly, I fish very hard, and I promote fishing on all levels.
So let's hear a little bit about your background in terms of fishing in NYC, because you're from Queens, right?
No, I'm from Manhattan.
Okay, not bad. I thought you were from Queens.
Well, I do fish Queens, but actually, back in the early 70s, I lived in Manhattan. I was the young little kid who used to take the F train down to Sheephead Bay, party boat fishing Manhattan, Manhattan City, as well as the Manhattan Beach and Coney Island. Striped bass fishing was great. Back in the old days, fish for the herring. We fished the mackerel fishing. We did a lot of what you call whiting, that is long gone, Tommy cod fishing, and all that other stuff. But things have changed, and moving right along, and moved to Long Island. But for the better part, the early ages, I did fish Manhattan a lot, including Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, as Williamsburg, and all that other stuff.
So what would you say are a few of your best memories of fishing in New York City?
One of the best things I've seen is the striped bass fishery. I've seen the collapse, I see the recovery, and now history is repeating itself, and I think it's time for us to do something a little bit more special to bring back the fishery.
So let's talk a little bit more about that. I agree with you that it's definitely headed in a negative direction. What do you think we can do to change that?
Well, there's a lot of things that we could do about it, but the first thing, and most importantly, there's a lot of organizations out there who see things separately, differently, but we all have to jump in on the same boat, if you will, and it's all about the fish, and it's all about recovering, because without this fishery, there is no sports, there is no industry, and there's no future for us.
Let's flash back to when the moratorium actually happened. I think you have a story about...
Back in the before the moratorium, there was a lot of words about, PCBs, mercury base, and over fishery and all that other stuff. But the fact of the matter, there weren't as many striped bass around, so therefore there had to be a closure. Prior to closure, I still remember when I was just a little kid, there was a gentleman that was doing a lot of scale sampling a guy by the name of Guy DiBiase, including the wonderful guy Al Ristori, who I'm a huge fan, and he has done so much about the fishery. And I still remember Pier 17 on the Wednesday night. We caught a lot of striped bass, and he said, "Oh wow, we got to close the fishery down." And a few months later, the fishery was closed. And then there was a moratorium for 8 years, and it rebounded back in the 90s. The striped bass fishery came back. Everybody was happy. The conservations were very happy that the fishery came back. The party boats were happy, captains and recreational. It was a wonderful fishery, but something is happening now that we over-harvest this. And who, back in the old days, nobody ever thought that, an entire biomass could be over-harvested by us. And now we found out there's history here, but now we're reaching a point that we really have to understand what is going on. This being said, that, our habitats, and so forth has changed. But the truth of the matter, I don't care how you look at it. We just have to look at the real picture. We have to get real science, real data, and get a real results. And none of this one corporation, albeit you could be one conservation, you could be a captain, you could recreational, you could believe in this and that. We all have to sit down, really sit down hard, and worry about this fishery.
What do you think about a slot size for a fish or for stripers? And if there were to be an ideal slot size, what would it be and why?
We have to do a lot of research, further research, but I could tell you right now, back in the late 70s, it used to be a 16-inch. Then it went up to 18, to 32, 28, 36, now back to 28. And the fact of the matter is, there's good and bad on each, but the 28 seems to be happy. Everybody was happy because they had a chance to spawn at least once. And people were wondering, and you're going to hear a lot of conservationists, people say, hey, let's bring back the 36-inch. I mean, let's look at it, the real fact. 36-inch it's a noble, but if we target 36, we're targeting the prime spawners. Therefore, it's not a good thing for the fishery. What do I think about the slot size? I think we need to try that. Down in Florida, we have a snook, we had redfish and so forth. It has rebounded. We've seen a near collapse back in Florida, and now it bounced back. And I think that's a good possibility. We should evaluate that further.
And you think they bounced back because there was a slot size?
It was a slot size, and there's also a very strict season for it. Yeah. I am not here to deny the commercial guys because realistically, there's been commercial fishing, historically. So who are we to judge to stop them from a livelihood? But what I really believe is we have to work on a sustainable fishery for everybody. That's the big issue here.
Do you think that the regulations for stripers should be the same along the entire coast, or do you think it should vary state to state?
Well, that's a great question. A lot of people had asked me that. If you really think about it, understanding that there are 3 nursery grounds. The first one is being the Chesapeake. You have the Hudson River, and there's one that is untold that is actually the Thames River up in Connecticut. Each area, each size limits, it is an issue. Being in Maryland, it's a very short-lived season, and knowing very well the biomass actually goes north, the north, and then in the fall run, it goes back. And it's a very short season. For us to have a one size is really not fair for everybody. So I kind of like where we are. We have to be, each state has to be regulated very carefully, monitored. But at the same token, one thing that I really was worried about was a winter nursery ground. When there is a nursery ground, we should not harvest those fish. That's supposed to be a sacred little nursery, and let them be, let them grow, let them do what they need to do before spawning back. And there's certain states that were actually taking advantage and killing, and I mean killing, devastating, while they were most vulnerable, and they were decimating the entire fishery. And that's a huge problem.
That definitely is a huge problem.
Yeah.
So Mario, you're a native New Yorker. Alberto, you're a native New Yorker.
Right.
How have you guys just, stripers included, but looking at the big picture of just New York City fishing in general, how would you say things have changed?
When I was growing up, and Alberto and I are pretty much close to the same age. I think he's older than me.
Thanks. That says a lot.
And I mean, we grew up through the same era, and I saw you would, when I was a kid, you go out there and you threw a hook out and you caught fish one after another. And then as they started going, and every year they would go up, and they would jump sometimes 4 or 5 inches in a year. I mean, people howl when an inch, they add an inch to it. And then we got to the point where there was really nothing there. And Staten Island was my hunting grounds. And 60-pound fish were not uncommon, they were like, that was the trophy fish from the shore, not even off the boat, on the shore. And then, today people get all excited about a 50-pound fish on a boat. And that was nothing back then. I mean, you were pretty good. If you did a lot of fishing, you had a 50-pounder underneath your, in your creel. That wasn't a problem at all. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of died. It stopped. And that was scary, to go out there and, have this abundance of fish. And all of a sudden, it's like, where'd they go? And then they had the moratorium, and and now I'm seeing it. It's not as strong as it was when I was a kid, but it's back, and it's pretty good. But we need to keep it that way.
Mm. So would you agree with a slot size as well?
Well,
I think that could help.
Like Alberto said, these are things that have to be looked at. We don't know what works yet, and we should try it. The 28 is a good sized fish. I think that if you start getting into the larger sizes, it can be. Although it's not proven yet about the breeders, which are the right ones, which are the wrong ones. We need more to be done. I think that also, along with government regulations, I think we should regulate ourselves. And if you're not going to eat the fish, don't take it home. Plenty of times I'll go by. I have a boat out in the marina, and I'll go by the dumpster, and there'll be a bag of bass in there. Someone's throwing it out.
I mean, Mario, you bring a very interesting topic, and I agree with you. I always have a saying: if there's a 28-inch, and if there's a law, doesn't necessarily mean you have to follow the law. And what I mean by that is not breaking the law, but if there's a law for you to take it home, I mean, be a little conservation minded. And if you're catching a really nice fish, if you want to, you have a choice. You don't have to kill every fish that you catch. Think about the future for a minute.
Yeah, definitely.
Also being a chef, and I'm big into nose to tail eating, and I try to use every bit of the fish. And people that look at my Instagram, you'll see that I'm always cooking the head, making stock with the bones. When I kill a fish, basically the only thing that goes in the garbage are the scales and the guts.
That's good. Yeah,
Very
I like
respectable,
that. Yeah.
definitely. So you mentioned 50-pounders. That made me think of another question I had for Al. Al, how many 50-pounders have you caught off the surf?
I caught 11 and 260s.
Woo!
Yeah.
And when was that? Like when did you catch the most of your 50s?
In the 90s.
In the 90s, when it bounced back.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the very beginning of the 90s when they made a recovery back, and it was incredibly hush-hush. Everybody wanted to know, well, nowadays it's a whole different story because everybody thinks every time you post a picture, they'll call foul play or Photoshop, if you will. But in the 90s, the biomass was there. The year class, the yearling back in the early, and there was the what they call that residential fish that actually survived the moratorium. Those are the legitimate cows. Okay, those are the big breeders, big stripers. So that was great. And not to say that now there's no big fish. There are big fish, but there's not as abundant. Where I'll give you a little history, if you will. Back in the 90s, when you hear reports, fishing reports, it's historically dated, where you could say back in the April month to May, the fishery was to be caught anywhere from basically Maryland to New Jersey. All right. Then comes May and June. It will be New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island. And then in July and August, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, up north, Cape Cod, and so forth. Now that's backtracking, flashback in the 90s. Today's report, let's just go back in April and May. April, May, maybe just a little part of Maryland or even a town of New Jersey. And then you go back to May and June. The report is no longer Maryland, New Jersey, it's just New York. And now you look at July, where we used to have residential fish, most of the states, Rhode Island. So what happens, it tells you there's a history there, there's data there that says that biomass is not what it used to be, is no longer resilient. It has been over-harvested. And some people will argue with you. They'll say, well, environment has changed, the habitat has changed, yada, yada. Yes, it has changed, so we should change. We shouldn't protect and defend. That's the biggest issue that I have, and I continue to have issues of that because we're not doing enough for it.
And I think that's part of the reason why we originally connected is because part of the message of the club is to defend our waterways.
Right.
And to go back to the subject of catching a fish and only killing it if you're going to eat it. That's one of our 3 basic rules of the club.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of them. The other is it didn't happen unless you take a picture of it. We're not going to believe your fish stories. And we try to leave every place that we fish cleaner than it was when we got there.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the greatest things that I notice about your club. First of all, there's so many clubs that's being developed. And you kind of wonder, what is your mission statement? Why do we need, and I'm all for it. I am all for conservation. I'm all for preserving and promoting fishing and just bringing families and teams and group and understanding and respect our fish. And mind you, it's not just striped bass. I'm talking about porgies, I'm talking about blackfish, fluke, even tuna, and even people that travel around the world just to fish. That's wonderful, and that's why I'm really pleased and thank God, being able to fish with you and finally realize you actually talk the talk, unlike some people that don't.
So you're saying I can fish, for the record?
You want for the record? You want? Yeah, I can say that. Yeah.
Awesome.
You can.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about, actually, before we jump into that, as listeners, if you have any ideas as to what you think should be done in terms of helping the striped bass population improve, bounce back, get better as a whole, please email brooklynfishingclub@gmail.com. We'd love to talk about different theories that you have as to why we're in the situation that we're in, what we can do to make it better, and we would really love your input on that topic. But I'd like to move on to talking about the fall run, specifically in New York City. Maybe some tactics that both of you like to use from the shore, from the boat, certain locations that work at different parts of the fall run, times of day, the tide, the moon, all these different factors that play into catching that trophy fish that we're all chasing. Specifically, though, in New York City, where would you begin?
Well, just get a bunker head and put it on a sinker and throw it out there. That
That's
seems
it,
to work.
huh?
Wow, I can't believe you said that. Really?
Yeah, right. It's what works. I mean, the main thing is to look for the structure and get into a spot where you're going to know where the fish are. I mean, it's scouting out, spending the time all summer long. I mean, there's no striped bass out there, so if you're not fishing for something else, walk the beaches at the low tide. Look for a structure that you can kind of plan your fishing in the fall. But and that's basically it. And that's what I've been doing. I'm looking at different things, different programs, maps, and stuff like that, and trying to decide on where I think that they're going to be holding up. And skill and luck. That's really fishing.
Well, actually, the way that I like to do it is I like to monitor the entire biomass. There's a migration path. and historically, again, in New York City area, and don't ever discount Brooklyn. Let's be honest here. There's certain places in Brooklyn that there is very, very well-known spots, even as close to Coney Island area, if you will. And for the surf guys or versus the boaters, first of all, and I know this is going to come looking at you right now, Victor. You're probably going to say, "Does both fish count?" Oh, okay.
That was the next
The answer,
question.
well, the answer to that, yes, it does count.
Okay.
All right, because you're out there enjoying it, having fun.
So you heard that here, folks.
Yeah, of course it
Boat
counts.
fish count.
Yeah, but if you're going to compare which one is more exciting to catch, then I have to say surf fishing.
And we'll not get into the trolling bait versus live lining on the boat.
That's a whole
Well,
That's a whole other-
okay, well, yes and no, because I'm an opportunist fisherman.
Right.
Whatever it takes, and
get the harvest.
right, to have fun, basically,
Yeah.
and to bend the rod. The key thing is, it's well known the South Beaches, some of the jetties in Brooklyn, and I'm not going to be too specific because if I gave you an X spot, here's the problem and here's the issue here. All right, if I give you the X spot, there's this quote unquote word burning spots. Burning spot is something that is one of my pet peeves that I do not like to do.
And
I don't
another
like
hot button issue.
It is a hot button because you know what? Everybody, particularly today's society, looking at social media, my God, and I don't want to use the word entitlement. If you post a nice fish picture and people immediately will say, okay, where did you catch it? And we all know fishermen never lie.
Yeah, they caught it in
Ever.
the ocean.
And the ocean, exactly. So, but the fact is, you give it, it's okay to give a general idea, but it's fairly safe for me to say, okay, October and November, Manhattan, Brooklyn, okay, it's a great place to fish. Certainly, where they're coming from, you're looking at, if you look at right now in September and October, okay, you have the Montauk, then you have the Shinnecock, you have Mauritius, Fire Island, and then you have Jones Beaches, and then you have New York City waters. So if you can actually gauge and consider this, because the fishery is not as viable or not as predictable because the biomass is not as big, so it do require some level of homework. Where do you get homework? You read reports, you get friends figuring out whether or they have caught one or two fish. And from there, this is the excitement where it starts. The fun is in the hunt, is not in the catching. People have to forget that.
Absolutely.
So I think I also picked up on something there in terms of like talking about friends and getting intel from them.
Right.
How important would you say it is to have like a strong network?
Oh, it's very important.
Yeah.
And one thing I did notice from your club, there's this group of people that is very respectful, understand the rules of engagements of fishing. It's not about burning spots. We share, ideas
Yeah.
where to fish, and that's all good as long as we each respect each other. Burning spots. If you're going to take the other denomination, it's the word hate, and it's all about I want to fish your spots and you don't belong in my spots. Blah 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 blah. That's just dividing everybody. It's not about that,
Yeah, we don't do that.
which is great.
Yeah, one of the for me the most exciting thing is sometimes just looking at stuff and gauging where I think somewhere I'm going to find fish, and then
Yeah.
walking up the beach and walking to that cut or that little structure that maybe nobody knows about. At least you think sometimes nobody knows about it, and you catch that one fish. You throw that line out, second, third cast, that fish is on, and you caught it, and you knew it was there. I mean, that's for me the most exciting part of it. Everybody likes to catch a fish, but just someone says, "Oh, go there." It's really the hunt, like Alberto said, it's the hunt for me. And
Yeah.
that's what I love.
Yeah, and the best thing, everybody will ask me, all the seminars, they say, "Hey, Alberto, give me one rule, golden rule. Give me this box. What is the secret ingredients in catching fish in the fall run?" Okay, it's very simple. Unlike the spring, everybody talks about the outgoing water. from the bay. Keep in mind that in the fall it's incoming. It's all about the water temperature being that it's closer to 59 degrees. That's where you're going to find it. So it's mostly, okay, incoming, not outgoing in the fall. And it's all about structures. And certainly, you have to pay attention to the bait. Like Mario said, bunker, absolutely. And you have the early season herring. Then you have the mackerel, and the squid starts showing up. Pay attention to that and watch the birds. Birds are actually your best friend. Well, they're not your friends when they're flying over your head, and doing their thing. But outside from that, watch them and just pay attention, because they're the one you're going to find blitzes. When you find birds, you're going to find bait, and I don't have to tell you find bait, that's where the fish are.
And for the surf casters, just match your lures to
Absolutely,
the bait that's in the
match
water.
the hatch.
Yeah.
Match
Yep.
the hatch.
What about structure, though? Because I've heard you talk about structure, and I know there's two different types. You want to elaborate on that a little
Oh, yeah,
bit?
you have the soft structure and you have hard structure. The hard structure is the very standard where you have jetties, bridges, shadow lines, and all that other stuff. And that means it's not going to change much. Soft structure is open beaches where you have a cut and waves. That's where the holes are. And a lot of people tend to overlook it, and one bad weather condition can change it. So the key, and most of my bigger fish are generally, in soft structure, because I find a spot and no, I will not share it with you unless you're a good friend. But at the same token, I'm not doing this for selfish reasons, but if you're targeting large fish per se, okay, it's better to target those fish, you and that fish, or you or a friend and a fish. The more people you tell, and you have a little honey hole, when you have 20 people casting in that little hole, that fish is going to be gone. That big fish is not big, fat, and they're very smart. So being that big, fat, and not lazy, they're very wary. So you have to be stealthy. Less people that know. You target the right tide, understanding where they're going to be, follow their migration. You find that hole, and guess what? The probability you catching that fish is very high. If you bring more friends, your probability decreases dramatically.
And even if everybody's catching and releasing, there's more opportunity for that fish to get killed inadvertently.
Yeah, exactly. Perfectly. Yeah.
What would you say would be the best time of the month to fish?
The best time of the month?
Yeah, like in terms of the moon phases.
Oh, hands down, it would have to be the spring run. The spring run meaning you have that early spring run where it's, depending which part, but if you're talking solely here in Manhattan, New York City area, I would have to say June is ideal. June, Jamaica Bay, okay, no, Jamaica Bay is not burning spot. Jamaica Bay is a general area. But Jamaica Bay, you have, in June,
How about in the fall, though? In the fall. Let's focus on
in the fall,
Yeah.
don't overlook Jamaica Bay.
Don't overlook it in the fall
Do
either?
not overlook it.
Okay.
Yeah, and definitely do not overlook Verrazano area.
Mm-hmm.
Really hot spot. And why? Because it's part of the Big Fish Highway, and then they'll head south to the Chesapeake.
So let me ask you a question about when the fish are coming in. What determines if they're going to make that left and go up the Hudson or make the right and go up the East River?
Wind, cold fronts, and it depends a lot. But the Hudson River fishery is not as strong as the Chesapeake, Maryland area. It's not.
Why do you think that is?
Because the habitat has changed.
Okay. Do you think Hurricane Sandy played a part in that?
Oh, tremendous. And actually, one of the biggest issue about Sandy is it ruined most of our terrains. And a lot of people will tell you that because the shallow area and most of the fish has gone to the EEZ zone, which is a nursery sanctuary highway for these fish. But that's another topic.
That's past the 3 mile mark?
That is exactly. That's the safe zone. But then here's another one. The special groups are trying to open that. And I find that that's, excuse the French, but kind of asinine, if you will. Because if a fishery is hurting, people having issues try to target these fish, why would you even want to open that?
Who's saying we should open that?
Let's just do a lot of research on that. Because certain groups out there that it's challenging. Let's just put it this way, because I feel that they haven't done their enough homework. But at the same token, their agenda is to commercialize, to to a larger industry, I'm all okay for that. But when the fishery is not sustainable for that, that's a problem.
Well, and there's always been groups talking about that, and that's you're always going to have that. The problem is it's the government officials that are talking about it now.
Well, the government, if you look at certain government, particularly one senator that actually said, if you backtrack it 8 years ago, there was a historical, let's just say, rally in Washington, D.C. Actually, that was February 2010. And that was historically, recreational, commercial, party boats, they all fought for the rights to fish. And that was against the government. And the same parties back then that actually supported that, now flash forward, certain parties that represented that changed his mind. And he says, let's do commercial. So the question is, why?
Money.
Bingo.
Money, money, money.
Yep.
So what do you think is the most important moon phase and phase of the tide to fish if you're trying to catch the biggest fish possible?
What time of the year you're talking about?
Fall. Let's focus
In
on the fall. Yeah.
If you're fishing from the surf, it would have to be the 4 days before the new moon. And the reason why is very simple. Okay? The darker the nights, higher water, they move in. And if you're a boater, you can take advantage to that. And if you're a boater, the full moon is also great, but not so great for the surf guys.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I've heard a lot of people swear by the full moon. Other people swear against it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you look, which is, Greg Myerson, a good friend of mine, even Bobby Brachettas and all the other people, most of the people that have caught world record, these are my personal friends. And we share data, we share information. And there's certain things that I've asked them a number of times, not divulging the places where they fish, but more of the technique. And the simple question was, true or false, did you or did you not catch your biggest, and if you're going to predict your next biggest fish, what part of the moon are you going to be targeting and what part of the tide? Would you believe 9 out of the 10 of the folks that I've asked, 9 of them says new moon, near the slack water, which contradicts many other people. And most of the people that talk and write about books, you catch on a fast-moving current, that is all wrong. If you're targeting big fish, concentrate near the new moon, near the slack water.
Why?
Because big, fat, and lazy big fish, and they're smart, they didn't get big and fat and lazy for being stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, that's what they do.
So they'll sit and wait until the current isn't moving as much to finally make their move.
Absolutely. If you look at the dynamics, the shape of these fish, they're not there to compete against the small ones that are very fast and aggressive. The fast and the aggressive, they do stupid things. They compete and they munch down, and there's leftovers down at the bottom, and those big fish will look down and say, those are easy meal. Mm-hmm. And the only time for them to actually move out and look at that shape, all right, they're not strong enough to move in fast-moving current. They don't want to compete against the other ones. So the best time is near that slack water. They actually go out, they feed, and they move on.
What do you think about trash fish, like dogfish?
This is my topic.
Sea robin.
Oh, my God.
This is to both of you. I mean, a lot of people, we have different species in New York City of fish that most people will look at them as quote-unquote trash fish that they'll throw back and not even consider eating. I would say dogfish, sea robin, skate. Can you guys think of any other ones that would make that list?
There's really no trash fish out there. You know that, right?
No, I know. But this is what a lot of people think.
Yeah. Well, culturally they think that.
Right.
Sea robin is desirable in France and Italy. You pay a premium for it. You can't make a bouillabaisse without one in France. Not a true one anyway.
Even skate, for that matter.
Yeah, skate.
Oh my God,
skate
it's
in
delicious.
France. Pan seared with the Dijon mustard sauce. It's nothing better than that, and it's awesome. I think that I'm sorry. I think that, because I always say this because of the Chinese and Italians, we eat everything, right? I mean, culturally, everything is, and anything is a meal. We make them taste good. And, the good thing about, and I think today is that we're seeing more Americans, because that's really what it is. And it's trash fish here in America, because culturally, we have it easy. We have all this big land. We have food is relatively cheap here compared to other countries, and we eat the top of the top. I mean, you look at beef, and people eat steaks and hamburgers. That's it. They getting into oxtail and shanks and stuff like that. And how many people here eat that? And the same goes for fish. They take the fillet. That's it. Done. And when it comes to the trash fish, they're what we call trash fish. They won't eat it because there's so many other options, and they want to eat just those good fish, the top of the top, or the cream of the top. I mean, really, I enjoy striped bass. It's really not my favorite fish to eat.
I agree with you. And at the same time, I mean, let's talk about trash fish. Let's flash back even in the early 70s.
Oh, what was trash?
What was considered trash and what is not today. You'll be surprised. Back in the Sheephead Bay, back in the old days when, oh God, I'm talking old days. I'm showing my age here.
Back when it was cold in the boats.
Yeah.
Back when there were a lot more boats there too, right?
Okay.
Sails.
Yeah. Now picture this. If I told you today that people back then call blackfish trash fish, people would say, like, are you on drugs or what? Because it's highly prized fish.
Yeah.
Okay? But back then, I remember very clearly the party boat Atomic. And I was targeting blackfish only because it's challenging. It's not a fish that, it requires skill. But because it was so ugly, and so when they're dead, they're slimy, people say, ooh, you like that trash fish? But the fact is, they really taste great. But back then they look, oh, it's ugly, so therefore equates to, trash fish. But at the same time, sea bass and the whitings and the mackerels, cod fishing, yeah, there was an abundance of that. But today is not so much. But can you picture that? People calling.
I can't, because everybody I know that fishes for blackfish, I mean,
Yeah.
besides the skill factor that goes into it,
Yes.
which I think a lot of black fishermen pride themselves on that. Like, that's the whole thing. Like,
Right.
you have to put in a lot of time on the water to really get good at catching blackfish.
Yeah, because the spring and the fall and the summer, water temperature, the wind, and so forth each day, and they change the habits, and you have a variety of different baits. And I could go on and on, like from the Asian crab, which is incredibly a new phenomenon back then in the late 90s. And then you have the green crabs, the hermit crabs, the Jonas crabs, and then I could go on and on. It is a fantastic fishery. We all love blackfish, but yes, you're absolutely right. There are days that you could turn one day hero, and the next day you could be a Guggen.
Yeah. We all know about that.
but you just got to be on top of your game, because
trying to learn
great.
Trying to learn blackfishing. I mean, I just got turned on to blackfishing.
I'm terrible
by
at
a
it.
club
I'm
by a
terrible
club
at it.
member, but 2 years ago, and it's a frustrating sport to learn, because you'll spend days not catching anything
Or
and
catching a lot
losing
of
rigs.
rocks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
losing rigs back and forth. You go, now everybody's using jigs, which are what, about $7 a piece for the heavy ones. $3 or $4. And
It boils down to technique and knowing what kind of bottom you're fishing.
Yeah, that's structure.
Yeah.
A lot of guys will
Yeah.
use the 2 anchor system, right? to
Well,
make sure they're-
yeah, because you got to stay. If the boat swings, you're not going to be able to present your bait properly. That's one of the key reasons why they have 2 anchors. But there's so much technique about this fish.
and you can shore fish for them.
and
Oh,
they're
I'm not going to
delicious.
talk
That's
about.
a
I don't know what
topic
you.
right there.
That I don't know.
Oh,
what
let's
you're
talk
talking
about that a little bit. Let's talk about that, because everybody thinks blackfishing, you got to go out on the boats to get them. But we have a ton of structure along the shoreline in New York City.
Okay, let's put it this way. Going back in the 70s, there was no season, no closure or anything. you could catch as many blackfish as you wanted. And now people started realizing, particularly the Asian market, if you will, because it's been highly prized for sashimi and all its wonderful flavor and texture and all that, and the live market. That's another fish that I am incredibly, and not just me in general, but the general consensus, that fish is the next fish that we really seriously have to look into because it's been overly harvested. And a fish that you're looking at, maybe a 3 or 4 pounders, 3 or 4 pounder, you're looking about 7 years old.
Wow.
Think
It
about
take
that.
a long time. They grow really, really
Right.
slow.
So I'm glad that the regulations are getting stricter by that. But now going back to when and how and so forth, let it be known that most tautog or blackfish, all right, these fish will go close to shore in the springtime, okay, and those are the spawners. Be sensitive about it. You could catch a double-digit blackfish as shallow as 5 feet of water.
Right off the shore of Brooklyn.
Absolutely. That's all I'm going to tell you. But now, fortunately, a lot of states have recognized that, so they actually put a heavy strict on that. So, but then knowing those structures, and in the fall, what are you guys doing? Looking at each other like, Alberto's telling you something that we ought to do now.
Well, I mean, that's how I learned how to blackfish, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you right now, even in okay, let's talk about certain spots like Fire Island. Even back then, when Short Thumb used to be good, they used to be very accessible. Back of Fire Island, you were looking at Mauritius, you're looking at Shinnecock areas. All those jetties in the early season, you will be able to target them. Think about that.
And how about in the fall? They move
They are
deeper
there too.
water?
They are
too?
there. It's all about water temperature as well. But as you progress to past November, they start migrating deeper waters, and then deeper, like up to like 80 and 90 feet of water. And if you try to catch the next world record, check into Virginia or Maryland, because that's a newfound, particularly in Virginia. Back in the old days, people never realize that there were blackfish in Virginia. And in fact, and even in North Carolina, they didn't recognize that fish. It was never regulated until they found out that, wow, there's a fishery there. So now people getting smart, and it was untapped, and now people realizing there are 20-pounder plus down in those areas.
And I think a guy from Queens actually caught the world record down in Maryland, right?
That is correct.
2 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah. New York City holding it down with another world record. There we go. So let's talk recipes, because both of you guys are chefs. Mario, that's your profession. Alberto, I know you do it more of.
Yeah, I'm a closet chef, man.
Gotcha. So what are some of your favorite fish to cook? Some of the ways you prepare them? Let's get into that a little bit.
Well, I mean, I prefer whole fish. I mean, that's my thing. It's for me, it's better. You get everything. You get the best parts of the fish, because when you're cooking that fish with the bone inside of it, that brings out the gelatin, and it acts as, kind of adds this silkiness to the meat on the texture. I like skin on when I do have fillets, and of course the whole fish is skin on. And when you get that skin nice and crisp, you're really getting like the best part of the fish, I think.
Absolutely.
We were talking about the mahi the other day. And,
Oh, boy.
And I did pan-seared that, and the skin on a mahi, and I never had, did it like that before. And it was like eating a fillet with a potato chip right over the top of it. That's how crispy it got. It was really, really yummy.
God, he's making
So
me hungry.
yeah, that for me. Like, a lot of people don't go for the skin on. I don't know why, but if you crisp that up, it's really amazing. And I mean, there's certain fish that you really shouldn't. Really fatty fish, you shouldn't be doing that. But as far as a favorite fish, we were debating about that earlier, and then I'm kind of a tog, although I also agree with the sea bass, I think.
Oh, the sea bass is
Yeah.
awesome, And the way I like to prepare mine is mostly sashimi, sushi style. A lot of people, I mean, the way I see it is you got to really, take advantage of the freshness, fruits of your labor, really take advantage, because it is nothing like eating fresh fish. All right, but certainly you have to be careful, and you have to know how to prepare it. I'm not just saying that certain fish you just cut it up and eat them raw and forget about the wasabi and blah 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 blah. Then if you get sick, boo, Alberto sucks because he just told me to do that. No, you really have to know how to prepare it, and it's always good to have lime. And it's always great to have lemon, and you have soy sauce. And by the way, I need to know, Mario, you posted something in your social media. You said something about a seasoned, what did you call soy sauce? I need to know about that because it's awesome.
I mean, here I am. I'm teaching you about aged soy sauce. Yeah, it's like, I mean, the only way I can describe it is that it's like the balsamic vinegar of China, I guess, or Japan. Wow. I think both cultures have an aged soy, and I mean, I'm using the American name. I don't know what they call it.
Right.
And it's amazing. It's like a condensed version. It's a little bit sweeter. And it has a deeper body to it, and I really enjoy that. I do it a lot. A lot of my recipes have an Asian flair. I think I am an Asiaphile.
Yeah, okay.
When it comes to that kind of stuff. When it comes to food.
Yeah, but I mean, I watch your Facebook and so forth. I mean, just looking at some of the recipes and everything, and people eat with their eyes first. Yeah. And some of the preparation and the plating is incredible.
Thank you.
But I do really seriously like, raw fish, because you can't beat freshness. There's just absolutely no way. It's just, you just got to know how to respect the fish, prepare it properly. And, that's why we're in the world of social media. And it's perfectly okay to say, hey, go check us out on the social media and just say, hey, how do you prepare that? And we're there. And it's all about sharing ideas and how to prepare it.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to catch me on Instagram, it's mario.DiBiase. That's my ID name. But I answer questions all the time.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Mario.DiBiase.
Okay.
And
how do you spell the last name?
D is in David, I, B is in Billy, I, A-S-E. So I answer questions all the time. I was just answering some smoking questions. I mean, I do a lot of different things.
You're a heavy smoker, aren't you?
I just smoked that mahi we were talking about.
Those extra wides, right?
Yeah, those extra. You got to get that big wide paper from Zigzag, so you can roll up the fish.
I'm thinking about nori paper. The seaweed and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the funny thing too is about sushi is that that people will go to a restaurant and eat sushi with no problem, and then at home they shy away from it. They're afraid, and it's weird. It's almost as if when they're home, it's raw fish. When they're at a restaurant, it's sushi, and they shy away from that. I made it the other night. We were fortunate enough to catch a bluefin and the mahi belly I cut out, and I did that sushi. And my wife, who we order sushi at least once or twice a week, she shied away from it. She was not into eating it because it was raw fish. It wasn't sushi.
My younger years, before college, I actually worked at a very high, fancy Japanese restaurant, where they hired the best of the Japanese chef to fly into New York, and the big celebrities will go in there, and going into those restaurants, you see limousines and so forth. And I had the privilege to actually watch them and learn and figure out what they do. And in all seriousness, there is absolutely no way but to look at freshness and preparation and respecting and make it eye candy, if you will. Because people eat with their eyes, and if you prepare it, and rule number one is, always have, like you said, and by the way, I am going to try your aged soy sauce.
I should have given you some.
Yeah. Gee, yeah.
I forgot it again.
No,
coincidence.
But yeah, I know, seriously. But one of the great things about our fishing, what we do, and all I mean, you gotta try the difference between a scup or a porgy. Sea bass is fantastic. Try to avoid oily fish like bluefish, if you will, because there's a lot of high bacteria content in there. But when in doubt, a twist of lemon. If you put too much lemon, it becomes ceviche. But you just put just a little bit there, and freeze it. All right, and then when you defrost it, cut it very thin, and a nice wasabi, horseradish or what have you, and you like it. But you have blackfish, you have porgies, you have fluke, you have striped bass, and it's libinous. But give it a shot, and you will have a whole new appreciation of that.
So let's say I'm out on my favorite party boat in New York City, Ocean Eagle 5.
Okay.
And
Good captain.
great captain.
Yeah.
Love that boat. Love Kathy. Shout out to Kathy, Greg, Glenn, and Jeff. Definitely the best party boat in New York City.
Yeah, I have to agree because the great people, incredibly knowledgeable. Oh my God! And I remember the times we had many fond memories, and I even remember one time that the Coast Guard actually had to help us out, and it was fun. I know Greg is probably thinking, "Where's Alberto going with this?" But just the level of professionalism that these, and I can honestly tell you, they're really great people.
They are, and they'll keep you laughing the whole time.
All the time.
So let's say I'm out there, I'm fishing for porgy.
Okay.
I pull one up.
Right.
It gets filleted for me. I could just cut that up into sashimi right there and eat it, or do I need to take it home and freeze it?
Play it safe. You could take it home and freeze it. Okay. But you can also fillet it very thin. And make sure you keep it on ice. Take it out. Put a little lemon in there and take it out. And little wasabi and soy sauce. And just try it. You'll love it. And then it's okay to have prepare rice, sticky rice. And the key things, and everybody says, oh, you got to have this, you got to have that. And you can get lost with the amount of rice that you can buy. But in all honesty, when you have enough water into any long grain or short grain, and you put a little, check this out, a little vinegar in there, mix it in, and the key is in the rice. When you stir, when it's just right, take it out, keep it in a cool place, keep a messing in it, stir it until it becomes sticky, and then it'll cool it down, and you're good to go. That is how you make sticky rice.
I wanted to make a little point because you brought that up about, and this is like a pet peeve of mine because I fish and I fish for food. I mean,
Right.
that's the thing. If I'm going to keep it, I treat it like food.
Right.
And one of the things I see that happen on these party boats, especially with porgy, is that these guys, they just have a bucket. They're out in the sun, 80-degree weather, and they're just throwing porgies in a bucket with water.
That's a perfect way to destroy the meat.
And it comes out to be a mushy, horrible mess. Have a cooler, have ice it. If you can bleed fish, bleeding any fish is really the way to go.
How do you do that?
Well, the bigger fish, the way you should bleed it is you take the knife, you lift up the gill plate, and some people say you can just cut the gill. I prefer to go, right by the heart and cut just above it. And then you throw that fish head first into a bucket with a slurry of ice and salt water. About a half hour to an hour, let it bleed out. Take that fish now, and then you ice it. When you ice fish, make sure that if you have the cooler, that you have the stopper open, because that melting water from the ice, the chlorination that's in there, will start to break down the fish. You can wash your fillets. That doesn't matter, because especially if you're washing and eating it, it's not going to make it mushy.
So washing it in fresh water doesn't matter.
The caveat here is we're talking about New York. We don't have well water here. I wouldn't wash a fillet with well water. With New York City water, I'm talking about like you fillet it, you got scales stuck on it, you put it underneath the sink, you wipe it down, you take it down, you pat it, and you let it dry on a baker's rack or something like that, and then you can freeze that fish. It'll be fine. It's what kills a fish is when you leave it in the water, because now it's soaking up that chlorine and it's actually making it taste, it's ruining the taste, because part of the flavor of saltwater fish is the salt content in the flesh. Also, people don't realize when they ice fish that when they put it on the ice, the ice melts, and that ice now becomes water. And that fish is sitting in that water, and it's breaking it down. So that's why I said open the stopper. A lot of captains don't like that because now you have slime all over the deck. But one way you can do it is when you throw ice in the cooler, just throw a layer of the ice in the bag down.
Right.
Put the fish on top of it. Then put another bag of ice on top. That'll keep it cold. And as the ice melts, it'll collect in the bag down below. And I mean, as long as it's not sitting there for a whole day. I mean, I'm talking about when you're on the boat. By the time you get back and you get home, it'll be fine. It's not going to be melting that much if you have a good quality cooler. I'm not talking about one of those really expensive ones. I forgot the name.
Mario, I'm glad you actually brought that up because it's very true. And for the better part, when majority of the people that don't like to eat fish, they always say, "Oh, stinky, smelly, sticky."
Should never be.
Because fresh fish is none of that. And one of the key things is, yes, I mean, bleeding a fish is absolutely a great way. And our tap water, the chlorine does hurt your fish, your meat. And if you're going to one of those top high-end raw fish places, if you will, one of the key things that they'll tell you, never put fresh fillet on ice. Keep it chilled, okay, but never. And if you're going to rinse it in the water that it came from, albeit salt water, and that's it. Pat it dry.
Well, unless you're in the bay.
Well, that's a whole different story.
But then
you have to choose the water that you got to be smart about it.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, guys. Well, it looks like that's about all the time we have. We've got our big fall run celebration party tonight. Really been looking forward to that. So I just want to thank you, Mario, for coming on the show. Alberto, thank you for coming up all the way from Florida to come on the show and come hang out with us at the party tonight. And for all of
I'm just going down here for the food, you know that.
I know. But in terms of our listeners, we'd love your feedback. This is our first podcast ever. This is my first time doing this. I know Mario and Alberto have a little bit of experience with it. But we'd love to hear your feedback. We have so many topics that we want to discuss as we move forward with these monthly podcasts. So tell us what you want to hear. Shoot us an email at brooklynfishingclub@gmail.com. Any feedback is always appreciated. Also, in the future, we'll let you know when we're going to be recording the podcast, so you can call in. And, we'd really like to hear from our listeners moving forward.
And not only listening, I mean, they check your social media.
Oh, yeah, that too. We have an Instagram page. You can follow us at Brooklyn Fishing Club. We're on Facebook as well. So I guess before we close out, I'll just talk about a few perks of joining the Brooklyn Fishing Club. First of all, our mission is to serve and connect all the urban anglers of New York City. And at this point, even beyond New York City. Mario and I actually had the chance to go to Amsterdam over the summer and attend the first ever urban fishing convention. And there were 14 countries represented there. And we were the only crew from the USA invited, which was pretty cool. And so this whole urban fishing thing, it's growing with each passing season across the globe. So we're proud to be a part of it. And it's a really, really interesting thing because as the population of the world grows and as more and more places become urbanized, you're going to see a lot more of urban fishing in the future. So, thank you all for tuning in. Sorry if we sound a little tired. We have been fishing for the past 48 hours straight with about 1 3-hour nap. So next time I'll have a little bit more. I'll have a little bit more energy as a host. Don't think I'm going to be this bland next time. But thank God for my guests because they killed it. And thank you to all our fans and our listeners. And if you're interested in joining Brooklyn Fishing Club, shoot us an email at brooklynfishing or at Jesus, I'm tired. Just email us or message us or whatever you want to do. Just get at us, and I'll let you know all the benefits of joining. But personally, I think the biggest benefit of joining the club is just the network of people that we have in it, because we have so many good people so many different resources of information, from kayak fishermen to surf fishermen, boat fishermen, guys that go freshwater fishing. We even do ice fishing trips in the winter. So, and I mean, even last weekend you were out there offshore for bluefin. So,
Yeah, that was awesome.
you know, if we could fish it, we're there. And we'll see you next time.
And the great thing too is that you just have this network all over
the world,
New York City, the
too.
world. Yeah, worldwide, man.
Yeah, one of the best things to do is just share the passion, and that's what it's all about.
And having that fun, that's what it's all about, man.
And for me to sign off, I just wish everybody good fishing, tight lines, and I'll see you out there in the waters.